Hi, and welcome to Ignite 2020. I'm Nancy Tandy. I am the go-to-market lead for business applications here at Microsoft. Today, I would like to introduce you to Joe Camp, one of our Power Platform experts. Joe is a cloud advocate here at Microsoft and has an extensive background in the financial industry. He will be presenting today the introduction to Power Platform, and we want to welcome Joe, and we look forward to this presentation.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks everybody for attending this session. Again, this is the introduction to Power Platform. We've got a lot of material, so I'm going to just go real briefly into a little bit about me. My name is Joe Camp. I was part of the Windows Insider MVP program, Windows Insider program. Prior to this role, I've been in this role for 2 months. So I'm learning a lot and learning very quickly. And there's a phrase at Microsoft. It's learning from the fire hose or drinking from the fire hose. So that's very much what I've been doing over the past couple of months. So anyway, on this slide up here, we've got my social credentials. You're more than happy to follow me, or more than happy for you to follow me. It'd be great. I do provide content about Power Apps through that channel. So in the context of this conversation, again, this is an introductory Power Platform conversation. We're going to talk about the components of Power Platform, and then as we talk about those components, we're going to weave in some business value of Power Platform, and then some of those components, and then we will talk about some of the things that we encourage you to do to continue your journey in learning more about Power Platform, and we'll include resources to help you with that. So jumping in, Power Platform is Microsoft's low-code platform that spans across Office 365, Azure Dynamics 365, and other standalone applications. The four main components are Power BI, which is the Power Analytics component, Power Apps, which is the application development component, Power Automate, business automation, and then Power Virtual Agents, which is the intelligent virtual agents or the chatbot framework. And then there are three pieces, at least in the context of this conversation, that feed data into these components. They are data connectors. We're going to touch really briefly on the AI builder, and then the common data service. So moving into Power BI, Power BI is the Power Platform business analytics service that delivers insights to analyzing data. It can share those insights through data visualization, which makes reports and dashboards to enable fast and informed decisions. Power BI scales across your organization, and it has built-in governance and security, allowing businesses to focus on using data more than managing that data. Whether your data is in a simple Microsoft Excel workbook or a collection of cloud-based and on-premises hybrid data warehouses, Power BI lets you easily connect to your data sources, clean that data, and then model your data without affecting the underlying source. Then you can visualize or discover what's important, what's in that data based off of visualization tools within Power BI. Power BI consists of a Power BI desktop, a Power BI software as a service, and then a mobile Power BI app, which works on your phone as well as tablets, and the phone's iOS and Android compatible. The second component is Power Apps, and Power Apps is Microsoft's no-code, low-code platform for building applications. This tooling builds off of some concepts that you are probably already familiar with if you're spending any time in Excel and you're building formulas within Excel. You can take that skill set over into the Power Apps platform to build apps. You can use Power Apps to build simple solutions like vehicle inspection forms, status reports, or complex business solutions for purchasing, a purchasing process or an inventory management tool. With Power Apps, you have choices on where and how your data is stored. Excuse me, something in my eye. Some of the common data sources include the Common Data Service, which we'll talk about in a little bit, SharePoint, SharePoint Online, Dynamics 365, and SQL, as well as Excel Online. Additionally, you can connect your app to over 325 connected data sources. Power Apps easily supports multiple data connections, allowing you to bring data together from many platforms into your single app. Additionally, Power Apps has democratized artificial intelligence by providing a wizard-based interface for building and training your model or your AI model, and unlocking the power of Azure machine learning and connected services. We're not going to talk too much about machine learning, or actually we're not going to talk at all about machine learning or cognitive services. It's a little too heavy for this conversation. There's a ton of information in Microsoft Learn, and I encourage you to go there and look at that if that's something that you're interested in. Next, we're going to talk about Power Automate. And Power Automate lets users create automated workflows between applications and services. It helps automate repetitive business processes such as communication, data collections, and decision approvals. Not only for the individual user, but Power Automate allows for the creation of enterprise-grade process automation. Power Automate's simple interface allows every level of user to automate work tasks from the beginner to a seasoned developer. A few examples of Power Automate and what Power Automate can do for you. You can automate repetitive tasks like moving data from one system to another, guiding a user through a process so they can complete specific different stages. An example, something that I like to think about is the onboarding of a new employee, going through that onboarding process. And then you can also build out purchase order approval automation. The last big component of Power Platform is Power Virtual Agents. And Power Virtual Agents is Microsoft's low-code, no-code bot framework. Power Virtual Agents, or PVA, enables anyone to create powerful chatbots using a guided no-code graphical interface without the need for data scientists nor developers. Power Virtual Agents addresses many of the major concerns with chatbot building, eliminates the gap between subject matter experts and the development teams building those chatbots, removes the complexity of exposing teams to the nuances of conversational AI and the need to write complex code. And Power Virtual Agents empowers subject matter experts to build and maintain their own conversational solutions. An example that I like to give about Power Virtual Agents is you can when you're building your PVA, Power Virtual Agent, you can nest that into your company's website, and then you can pre-populate a number of questions, kind of a frequently asked questions that you get from your customer service support team in the PVA, and then as somebody comes to your website, they engage with that chatbot, and the chatbot's asking a lot of questions and providing answers to the customer. The customer may ask a question that the chatbot just doesn't have the data to support the question, and that is a trigger that will automatically send out a Power Automate, an email notification to a live agent. Within that notification, that live agent has all the history of the conversation, if you will, between the chatbot and the customer, and it's a seamless transition to where the live agent can now help and support the customer. So great customer experience. Excuse me. So we talked very briefly about Common Data Service, and the Common Data Service is a cloud-based solution that easily structures a variety of data and business logic to support interconnected applications. and processes in a secure and compliant manner. Managed and maintained by Microsoft, the Common Data Service is available globally, but deployed geographically to comply with your potential data residency. It is not designed for standalone use on your servers. Some quick attributes about Common Data Service is it handles authentication through Azure Active Directory, allowing for conditional access as well as multi-factor authentication. Common Data Service allows you to easily apply business logic at the data level. Common Data Service offers you the opportunity to shape your data, allowing you to discover, model, validate, and report on your data. And then the Common Data Service stores your physical data within the Azure cloud, which is something we touched on earlier. One of the powers of Power Automate, no pun intended, is its ability to leverage data across many platforms. To do this, components of Power Platform use data connectors. You can think of a data connector as a bridge from your data source to your app or workflow, which allows for information to be conveyed back and forth. Data connectors allow you to extend your business solutions across platforms and add functionality for your users. And Power Platform has more than 325 data connectors out of the box. With that said, you do have the ability to build custom connectors. And custom connectors allow you to extend your app, excuse me, by calling a publicly available API or a custom API you're hosting in a cloud provider. Data connectors work by sending information back and forth across these APIs and gathering available functions for Power Apps and Power Automate. The data sources for the connectors are in two forms. They're tabular form, which is one that returns data in a structured table. And this is great for Power Apps because Power Apps can directly read and display these tables through some things called galleries, forms, and controls. And as you go through and learn about Power Apps, you will understand that galleries, forms, and controls are part of the Power Apps studio, which is the area where you're going to be building your app. Additionally, if the data source supports it, Power Apps can create, edit, and delete data from these data sources. Examples of tabular data are the Common Data Service, SharePoint, Excel, Excel Online, and SQL Server. The other data source for connectors is the function-based data. And this is one that uses function to interact with the data source. These functions can be used to return a table of data, but offer more extensive actions such as the ability to send an email, update permissions, or create a calendar event. Examples include Office 365 users within your tenant or within your subscription, a project online, and if you're utilizing Azure, then you can use Azure Blob Storage. And then the components of a connector, there's two main components. There's triggers and actions. And triggers are only used by Power Automate and prompt a flow to begin, or a Power Automate flow to begin. Triggers can be timed based, such that a flow could begin a specific time of the day. So say you need to transfer data from one system to another system daily. You can set up a you can set up a Power Automate, and the trigger for that data flow from one data system to another data system is a specific time of the day. Additionally, or you could set up a trigger based off of an action by creating a new record in a table or receiving an email. Actions are used in both Power Automate and Power Apps. Actions are prompted by the user or a trigger and allow interaction with your data source by some function. For example, an action would be sending an email to your workflow or app, or writing a new line in a data source. So pulling all of this together, so we've talked about a bunch of different components of Power Platform, and let me kind of give you tell you a fictitious story of how this could work. Say, for example, current life right now, there's a business that has an IT department, and within that IT department, they provide equipment to their employees who can check out said equipment for an event. And the current process is one where the employee has to walk down to the IT department, talk with somebody within IT. They're asked to fill out a form. The individual that works in IT has to go back and look in inventory, see if they have it. Then they come back out, they give it to the employee takes it away, does some work, and the employee, for whatever reason, is late in getting that equipment back to inventory. An email has to be generated as a response or as a reminder. So it's just kind of this long, laborious process. The benefit and what you can do with Power Platform is, within Power Apps, you can build an app, and you can take within that app, you can include all of your inventory. You can include current status or status of all that inventory, whether it's available or not. You can also include usage or user information on how to use specific pieces of equipment. So say, for example, I need a piece of equipment for a user group that I'm going to talk to. I can pull up the app within my phone or on my laptop. I can fill some things out requesting for a specific piece of equipment. Needed this day, this day, this day. Click submit. Once I click submit, a Power Automate flow sends an email directly to the IT department. The IT department now has my request. They will know whether they have the equipment or not. They can send an email back, say, yeah, Joe, come and pick up this piece of equipment at this time. And then you have 5 days to use the piece of equipment. On the 5th day, I receive an email, which is a Power Automated generated email that says, Joe, you need to return the piece of equipment. And then I do, and it saves the IT department a ton of money and a ton of time. But then what you can do is, as you're creating all this data, you can take that data and you can put it in a Power BI solution where you can visualize who's checking out equipment, what equipment's being checked out, the length of time that it's gone. You can use this data to figure out, does a department need some dedicated equipment based off of the amount of times that they've checked some stuff out. It's great for budget planning. And this is something that I had to do in a former role, and having this would have been fantastic from a planning budgetary perspective. So that's kind of a high level story on how Power Platform can work and can work for you. So now that we've gone through those pieces of Power Platform and the components of Power Platform, I want to share with you some thoughts on what you can do in steps moving forward in getting a deeper understanding of the different pieces. So one of the things that we have an interest in, to be very transparent, is we would love for you all to consider sitting for and taking the Power Platform Fundamentals certification test. And that's called PL900. It is an exam which you would, once you pass, you have it on your resume. It certifies, at least from Microsoft's perspective, that you understand the business value and the business proposition of Power Platform. And I think that it's a nice skill set to have on your resume. So some of the skills that are needed, you need to understand the business value of Power Platform, which we've talked about, the core components of Power Platform, which we've talked about, the business value of Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent, which unfortunately is missing in this slide. And the next couple of slides that I'm going to talk about will hopefully help you gain a little more knowledge on those components. And so one of those is Microsoft Learn, and this is a kind of a, it's Microsoft Learn, for those who don't know, it's Microsoft's, gosh, what's the best term to describe it? The best time, to, I guess, to describe it is Learn. It's an aggregation of modules that kind of walk you through the various pieces of Power Platform, and this is a a learning path within Microsoft Learn, the Power Platform fundamentals. So it's 8 classes, 8 sessions. There's information about Power BI, CDS, and Power Automate, and as well as some activities that you can work through to build an app, build a dashboard, build Power Automate. If you want to be in an instructed environment, training environment, we do work with some instructor-led or some instructor partners, and you can easily do that. And then finally, just this one, not finally, but this one slide talks about Power Platform fundamentals and the certification. And then this slide is really the main slide that I want to share with you. And please take a screenshot of this. This includes the link to the learning path that we just talked about on Microsoft Learn. It is a link to the instructor-led training if that's something that you're interested in and something you want to do. And then the certification details. This landing page has a ton of details on skills that are quizzed on, and it's a great informational website or web page. Then these last 2 slides, Power App Test Environment. This is an opportunity for you to set up your own test environment. It's an article that I wrote that walks through the steps on building using M365 developer program to build out your own test environment. This is actually what I use to build out my Power Apps and Power Automate and testing area, testing sandbox, I guess, lack of a better way to say it. And then this last bullet is my kind of a written demo on the very first Power App that I ever wrote less than a month ago. And it goes step by step on the app that I built, which was actually an inventory management app. So a lot of material in a short amount of time. Please consider following up with some of these other resources for continued learning. That is the completion of my portion. Nancy, I know that you wanted to talk about the Ignite Skills Challenge.
I do. Thank you, Joe. That was a great presentation. So I just wanted to mention to everybody, we are having a Cloud Skills Challenge during Ignite, and it basically is, there are 6 different learning paths that you have an opportunity to consume, and if you can complete one of those learning paths, you will get a free Microsoft certification exam. You can join in the fun by going to the Learning Zone, and there's a URL down at the bottom of this slide. It's a lot of fun. We've done it at some of our past events, so take a chance and get learned and skilled up. So Joe, we have a few questions that came in and wanted to just kind of go through a few of them, if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
The first one is, do you have to sign into Microsoft Learn, and is it free or does it cost something?
Microsoft Learn is free. You don't have to sign in. One of the cool things about Microsoft Learn is it kind of tracks your progress, and you get some points in the upper right-hand corner. And for me, being somewhat competitive, against myself. I like to see the little slider bar kind of move over as I'm gaining knowledge points. So it's not, it doesn't, so, but to do that, you need to sign in with your Microsoft account, so your email address, your email account. But no, you don't have to do that.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about the certification? What is the best way that you would prepare for it? Is it just consuming the Learn content, or do you recommend going to a class?
Full disclosure, I haven't taken the exam yet, but my feeling is that the information within Microsoft Learn, the learning path, I think is sufficient, that will be enough to get you through the exam. One of the things that you do want to look at is there's some classes, there's some beginner classes within Microsoft Learn for Power Virtual Agent, which are not, unfortunately, at least not right yet, but I think that'll get changed, are not part of that learning path, but that's easily discoverable. So my suggestion is take the learning path classes of the 8 classes, and then when you're in Microsoft Learn, search for Power Virtual Agent, and there is a beginner's learning path there of 3 classes, and I would recommend that you take those. I have not taken an in-class learning, so I really don't have a benchmark on that. But my suggestion is to do what I just did and play with, and set up an app, set up an environment, play with the tools within Power Apps and get familiar with them. That's I think that's my best suggestion.
That's great. Okay, so I have another question that came in. What would you recommend to a developer to try out first in Power Platform? So of the 4 solutions within it.
I would suggest you play around with Power Apps, and I think as a developer, I think what you'll end up doing is you'll then play around with Power Apps, and then what you'll think about is, all right, so maybe I can extend this, which you can, and then depending on what languages you know, you can tie in some JavaScript or some Python and tie that into some other database, building out maybe your own custom connector. Or if you are also playing around with Azure, then you can connect some of the Azure tooling into your app. I have a feeling that as a developer, that's where you would go. My background, to be very honest, is I am learning. I don't have the dev background skills. And this is, to me, this is so much fun because I feel like a dev, though I'm learning to be a dev. So my suggestion would be play around with Power Apps first.
Okay, so I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. This was a good one. Do all Power Platform apps need CDS?
No, they do not. As a matter of fact, the Power app that I built is tied in where is it? This bottom bullet point. A Power app that I built is tied to an Excel online spreadsheet, so that's my data source. So okay. No, you don't need to have CDS.
Okay. Another question just kind of came in. Do you have an example of the CDS? So if they went into your app demo, would they see that? Or you said it's not in there?
No, it's not in. I do not, but I know that there is a common data service learning module within the learning path that I referenced, and then there's also a ton of information on it's docs.microsoft.com, and when you pull that up, in the upper right hand corner there's a search field, and you can type in common data service, and there's a ton of information there.
Okay. Well, I think we're at time for today, so that's all the time we have for Q&A. Joe, thank you today for presenting. It was really great, and I just want to thank everyone for attending on behalf of Microsoft and Joe and myself, and we hope you have a really great Ignite 2020.
Thank you, Nancy, and thanks everybody for coming out and listening to my talk today. Greatly appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks.
Hope you all have a great rest of your Ignite.